Every Minecraft world is divided into a bunch of small pieces called chunks. These chunks are what the game uses to divide the map into more manageable pieces. And every Minecraft world, being 30 million blocks big in each cardinal directions, contains this many possible chunks. That's 14 with 12 zeros behind it. But what would happen if instead of having access to these hundreds of billions of chunks, I only get one? Well, that's what I set out to answer in this challenge. This is the story of how I survived 300 days in a Minecraft world that's only one chunk big. On day 1, I did all the normal day 1 things. Chopped down a tree, made some tools, and started a little melon and wheat farm. My next task was stone tools, something I'd have to get used to using for quite a long time. I then went mining for a bit, found some brown mushrooms, then spent the rest of the day mining gravel. I don't really know why I mined all this gravel, but I kind of just felt like it. Once night came around, I wanted to get out of the scary caves and go to the surface to start working on a bigger and better farm. Since I don't have any animals in this world yet, melons and wheat are going to be my only food source for quite a long time. By the end of the night, I had already figured out how to get outside the border. You can't break or place blocks out here, so it was really just to see how my world was coming along. And not bad. And just as day 1 was coming to an end, I had my first death. And of course, it was from a failed MLG water. Day 2 was spent constructing a hideous bamboo farm in the sky when I realized I'm all out of cobblestone. So, time to make a cobblestone generator. With my newly found riches, cobblestone that is, I set out on my first big project on the world, making a mob farm. I was in desperate need of food, and the bones I would get from skeletons in this farm could really help me out to make bone meal. Once I had it all constructed, it was time to test it out. I thought to myself, this seems slower than it should be. That's because the entire farm is filled with spiders. Only skeletons, zombies, and creepers were able to fall down the chute in this farm, so eventually the only thing that was left was spiders, and no more mobs were spawning. The next day was spent organizing my items. For being in such a tiny world, I had accumulated quite a bit of items. I constructed a somewhat janky storage system, and boom, problem solved. Oh, and would you look at that? I'm back in the mob farm killing spiders. I'm back in the mob farm being killed by spiders. Hey, but at least the farm's working pretty good now. A few days of killing and being killed by spiders, and I finally had enough string to make wool, and then carpet to start spider-proofing the mob farm. The next day, I got redemption for my first death by hitting this absolutely insane MLG water. On day 19, I decided to try to make something cool using the amethyst geode that was in my world. I wanted to make an underground area that connected with the geode. But for now, I'll just be putting a potato farm down here. And what do you know, I am back in the mob farm, and for some reason, I removed the spider-proofing? But this was not a normal situation in Spider Death. This was a full-blown disaster. I had accidentally left the trapdoors open from when I was clearing out the mob farm earlier, and a creeper exploded, sending mobs spilling everywhere out into the world. Would this be the end of the one chunk world? Well, I thought it would be, but I was able to save it after just a few deaths and one exploded chest. That disaster was a wake-up call for me and made me realize I need to burn some trees down outside the border. I used some weirdly placed blocks and leaves to get the fire to spread outside the border, but it didn't work too well and I was left with this. And not even one day after my last mob farm disaster, I was already back inside killing spiders yet again. That same night, I found my first chicken, and a pesky zombie was riding it, so I took care of that and put the chicken in a hole so it wouldn't escape. I ended up completely forgetting about this chicken, and somehow it just vanished. The next morning, I woke up realizing that I had experienced enough danger and death in this world, so it was time to completely spider-proof the mob farm. For good this time. I then spent the rest of the day AFK at the mob farm to see how much loot I could get. And I ended up getting 2 sugar. Perfect for what's coming next on the world. You see, from the very start of this world, the goal has been to cure a zombie villager. That's why I made the mob farm, and that's why day 41 was spent searching where gold generates in the new update. According to the wiki, there's an average of 12.4 gold per chunk, and I needed 16. But I got super lucky, and in my chunk, there was a whopping 5 gold. I even found a big vein just outside the border taunting me. But hey, at least I found some diamonds. Diamond! The only way for me to get the remaining 11 gold was to go to the nether. And I was not looking forward to this. I used a lava pool that was at the bottom of my chunk to carry individual lava buckets all the way to the surface, and one by one using water, I turned them into obsidian. And on day 46, I went to the nether for the first time. Surprisingly, it wasn't infested with mobs like I had thought it would be. This is great. I dug down below the fortress and started mining. I found a gold vein not too long after and wanted to bring it back to the overworld to keep it safe. but as I was underground in the nether, an insane amount of mobs started spawning above me. Being not prepared, I ran back to my portal to escape, but was greeted on the other side by a load of blazes. They killed me a few times, burned some of my stuff, and burned down most of the forest outside the border. So I took a break and brewed the weakness potions I would need to cure my zombie villager. I also used almost all of my iron to make some full iron armor, and as you can see, it was extremely helpful. I went back to get my stuff, then continued mining. After finding the rest of the gold I needed, I decided to go full assassin mode and kill as many nether mobs as I could. And now it was time for me to get a zombie villager so I could cure it. I made a little platform with trapdoors so I could prevent any zombie villagers from dying to fall damage, but so I could let the rest of the mobs through. Here I just got one, and I lured it into a box outside the spawner, and on day 52, I got my very first villager. But I forgot to light up the box the villager was in, and a zombie spawned inside, turning it back into a zombie villager. So I had to use the golden apple that was supposed to be for the second villager on this one. While I was waiting for that villager to cure again, I realized I had accidentally turned my mob farm into a music disc farm. In total, I got 7 music discs from it. But once the villager finally cured, it was back to the nether to get some more gold for the second one. I finally got the remaining gold and cured another zombie villager. While I was waiting for this one to cure, I went above the mob farm to make a massive potato farm that I could use to scam the villagers into giving me all of their emeralds. Oh, and to give the villagers so they could breed. What? The next few days were spent trying to come up with some get-rich-quick schemes, exploiting my newly found resources, and killing anyone who didn't comply. After realizing that I could grow potatoes and carrots much faster using a bone meal dispenser farm, I converted the rooftop farm to a melon farm since I have a villager who will trade me 1 emerald for 1 melon. With a small supply of iron coming from the iron golem spawning next to the villagers, I got to work on some more automatic farms. The first being an automatic bamboo farm. But my hunger for iron was not satisfied, so my next big project in the world was making an iron farm. I started with the framework of the farm, then built the top platform where the iron golems spawn, and I pushed off into lava. This farm needs a zombie and 3 villagers, so I made a dark box in the farm for zombies to hopefully spawn in, and after waiting below for a bit, I finally got 3 to spawn inside. I don't have a name tag yet to prevent the zombie from despawning, but if a mob picks up an item, it will also no longer despawn. So I can use this mechanic instead of an expensive name tag. Once I had gotten the zombie into its cage, it was time to bring the villagers up. I started making a staircase from the villager area all the way up to the iron farm. I thought this was going to be extremely painful, but at night, villagers pathfind to their nearest bed. So I used this to my advantage by breaking and placing beds up the long staircase all the way up until I made it to the top. One of the 3 villagers fell off and died on the way up, but that was fine because I still have 2 and I can breed them together. But these 2 villagers gave me such a hard time once we were at the top, and this one didn't want to stay up there and kept trying to escape down the stairs. I thought it was going to accidentally fall off and I was going to have to bring one all the way back up to the top again. Luckily, that didn't happen, but when I was trying to get them to breed to get my 3rd villager, one of them would just not stop being scared. I tried everything and eventually resorted to Google to help me out. It said to just restart my server and it worked. And I finally got them to... Bruh. On my way back down from the mob farm, I noticed a wandering trader. The first one I've gotten in this world. It's day 103 by the way. It took that long for one to spawn. And it was also selling some pretty useless items, so that's great. Cats can spawn next to villages, so I guess the game decided a good place for one to spawn was inside my mob farm. I didn't have any string to fish for fish though, so I had to kill a few spiders, make a fishing rod, then catch a few fish to tame the cat. And here it is, my first pet on the One Chunk world. Once that was done, it was time to test the iron farm, and it was working great. So it's on to the next project. When I went to the nether, I found myself yet another cat. So it was back to the pond to fish some more fish, and I got myself a second cat. While I was in the nether, I also decided to spawn-proof the entire thing. That way we wouldn't have any more of these situations. The next big project was going to be clearing out the entire nether underneath the fortress all the way down to bedrock, and building a hoglin farm at the bottom. I didn't know this till now, but there's quite a large lava lake underground in my nether, which made things so much harder. This project made me die so many times. and I lost all of my stuff on multiple occasions, so this project took quite a long time. After dying a few more times, I decided it was time to take a break and gather some of the resources that the farm would need. This is when I had a panic moment. I covered up all the nylium in the nether, and when you do that, it turns back to normal netherrack. I thought I was screwed, but I knew you could bone meal nylium to get it to spread. I just didn't know how you would bone meal it. I made a dispenser and tried to bone meal the blocks that were still outside the border, but that didn't work. After trying a few more variations, I opened up a creative world and noticed that you need to bone meal the block that's next to the nylium. So I tried that and it worked. I was so scared because I thought I permanently messed up my world, but luckily I was able to fix it. Once I had gotten the nylium back, I bone mealed it to get the warp fungus that this farm needs. After that, it was back to the grind of clearing out the nether. A few more deaths later, and I needed another break. This time, I was going to get a Fortune 3 pickaxe from trading with villagers and use it to mine the diamonds that I found earlier. Here we are, and not bad. From 4 diamond ore, I was able to get 11 diamonds. And naturally, the first thing I used my diamonds on was the jukebox. When listening to Melohi, I had an epiphany. Instead of dying every 5 minutes to lava, I could craft myself fire resistance potions to clear out the lava even faster. I'm a bit disappointed in myself for not thinking of this till now, but hey, better late than never. Once I had them all crafted up, I dove into the lava and started clearing it all out. Now that the entire nether is all cleared out, I marked out the boundary of the Crimson Forest biome, since this biome is where hoglins spawn. Once I had it all built, I stood above it to see how it was working, and it looks like it's not working that great, because the hoglins are just running around and not really going into the lava. So I decided to fix it. I figured that since it was up against the world border, it must have been confusing the hoglins. So I made the new version smaller and farther away from the border. And it looked like it was working good now. So I did a quick 1-hour AFK test to make sure, and it got me 17 stacks of cooked pork chops. Okay, it's definitely working good. I came back to the overworld so I could start working on the next project, and oh, wow. Now even more of the forest is burned down. But deforestation aside, it was time to work on some more farms. And for those, I'm going to be clearing out the overworld chunk down to bedrock. I wanted to make a mini industrial farm area with the limited space I have, and I figured doing it underground would be best. The first farm I was going to build was a villager-based crop farm. These are fully automatic and work super good, so I was excited to build one. The first step was abducting some villagers from my trading area and bringing them underground. I thought this was going to be a pain, and I was right because it was. Villagers are single-handedly the best and worst thing on this world. Well, maybe the nether is the worst thing. Anyways, I was able to get these 2 villagers down to bedrock relatively easily, meaning none of them died, and got to work setting it all up. This farm needs 3 villagers, so step 1 was breeding these 2 together, then getting a villager into the center of the farm. Now all I had left was to set up the... Oh, come on! Now that it was all done, I did a quick test to see if it was working good, and it was. I then went on to make a few more piston and observer farms like a bamboo farm and a melon farm. Once that was all done, I ran into another wandering trader, but this time it was selling something that was actually useful. Moss blocks and pumpkins, both first for this world. But since I was done trading with him, I had to make room for the next one to spawn. Sorry. Morally troubled from murdering that wandering trader, I decided that it was time to retire the mob farm. It was ugly and caused me so much pain in this world, so it was time for it to go. I also wanted to clear up the villager area above here too, since it was just ugly and confusing. I started off trying to save the villagers by pushing them off so they would land in water, but that got too annoying, so I just... yeah. Anyways, I also wanted to move my nether portal underground so I wouldn't have any more of these situations. I figured putting it inside of my amethyst geode would look pretty cool, since both the portal and amethyst geode are purple. And here it is completed. Now I decided to rebuild the mob farm underground, since the mob loot was still pretty useful. I'm making this one in the same design as the other one, but with 2 levels this time. And yes, don't worry, it's going to be spider-proof too. I did a quick test to see if it was working, and it's looking good. I noticed that it was pretty easy to get skeletons to kill creepers in this farm, so I decided to get some more music discs. But out of nowhere, my cat teleported to me and tried to climb into the mob farm. It got shot by a skeleton a few times, and I tried to save it. I sat it down and everything seemed fine, so I went to the farm to try to clear out the rest of the mob so I could save it, but it was killed by a skeleton. I was devastated. At least I was able to get one of every music disc. This is for you, unnamed cat. The next few days were spent collecting resources for my next project and trying to forget about my cat dying. Since I didn't have a reliable source of gravel yet to get renewable dirt, I cleared out every single dirt block in my world, then remade the terrain so it was hollow underneath. You wouldn't be able to tell from above, and it would give me so much more dirt to work with, and I think it looks pretty good. I also went and lit up the area with moss carpets and torches, but since I'm in a jungle biome, the grass is super green and the carpets don't really blend that well, but that's okay. I bone milled the area a bit and finished smelting the rest of the stone that I would need for the project. While I was down here, I noticed there was a blaze stuck in my portal area. A perfect example of why I moved my portal underground. If this were above ground, there would be fire everywhere. But instead the blaze is just stuck in here, not causing any problems. This is how things should be. The next big project was a big sky island area with villagers on their own islands and a large island in the middle. I pillared up with some scaffolding and got to work on the first islands. The main island was first, and it was turning out really great. Each of the surrounding islands were next, and I then got to work detailing everything to make it look a bit more natural. Once the islands were done, it was time for the villagers to move in. I used the Irontron that was above as a villager breeder, and it was working out pretty good. I was getting a steady supply of villagers that I would just put in boats and row down to their own islands. Finally, a project that hasn't had a major disaster yet. Oh, well, that didn't last long. The same thing that happened to my very first villager just happened again. You'd think I would have learned my lesson. Because all the villagers in the breeder died, I had to transport one from the bottom of the world in the potato and carrot farm to the build limit so I could get it to breed with the one remaining villager that was in the iron farm. Once I had that all sorted out, the islands were done. I had an island with toolsmiths and armorers, one with farmers, one with fletchers, one with masons, and one with fishermen villagers. I planned to add a few more islands later once I could get myself a librarian villager. And that was the last major project that I completed on the world. Now we've come to the last thing, and that was fishing for a name tag for my cat. It took me quite a while to figure out how to get treasure loot while fishing since Mojang updated the fishing mechanics in 1.16, so my first, second, and third setups all didn't work. There have to be 2 source blocks of water below the bobber and 2 air blocks above it in a 5x5 area. So I had to remake the box so the water would be all source blocks, and it finally worked. I found a second cat while fishing, so I tamed it and brought it with me. And here we arrive at the last clip that I recorded on this world. I asked you guys in a video what I should name my cats, and here are their names: Chunky, Stampy, and Garfield. Unfortunately, this world was accidentally deleted when my PC decided that it hates me. So this is the last you'll be seeing of this one chunk world. However, there are bigger and better series soon on the way, so get subscribed so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching. Bye!